Okay, so welcome. Oh, that's not it. Okay, that's it. Welcome everyone to this session. Today we will be talking about Migrate for recurring data imports. So it's been a couple of years that we use Migrate for this use case, and this will be us sharing our experience with it. And yeah, just talk about it. Please use the chat if you have any question or suggestion, reaction. We check it after the session. So a little bit about us. We both work at WebStance. It's a Drupal web agency based in Belgium. Me, I'm the tech lead, and I'm generally the go-to Migrate guy at work. And I'm with Arthur.
Hi guys, I'm Arthur. I also work at WebStance on one of their longest lasting projects. I manage about 1 million rows of data imported every single day using Migrate. So before we dive into the main topic, I'll just like to keep everyone up to date with what Drupal actually is. So Drupal is essentially a Migrate developer's tool. It was originally designed to be used to facilitate the upgrade from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. Taking the website data and turning it into Drupal 8 compatible data. After some time, it became an integral part of Drupal core in the form of the Migrate API. It's a flexible tool that allows you to take just about any data source, transform it, and plug it then into Drupal. With that being said, let's dive straight into the main topic, our journey with Migrate.
So yeah, originally we used to do everything custom, and then a couple of years ago we started to use Migrate. Here are some key points we felt were especially important to talk about. Some things that we felt like our experience was worth sharing. And yeah, so let's dive right in because we don't have much time. First, it's about data integrity.
So another way to ask about data integrity would be to ask the question, how to not import corrupted data. So there are a few ways to achieve this. The way I've gone about doing it is using a custom process plugin. There are a plethora of process plugins that you can actually use. However, if you don't find what you actually need, you can also try creating your own process plugins. When you do, it's essential to use the Migrate skipper exception, as this will be the way to tell Drupal that the data given to you does not suit your needs.
So yeah, when doing unintended import, it's really easy to end up with malformed entities and end up with stuff broken in production because it runs unattended, you know. So most of the time it's because you've got the wrong assumptions about your data. You expect one field to be non-nullable and then it's nullable. So Migrate provides us with some ways to mitigate that, and you should plan for that. The first and the easiest one is the entity validation property and the destination plugin. So that basically tells the destination plugins to run the entity process, the entity validation process. So without that, you can import entities with required fields left empty. That's not something you want most of the time. So yeah, that's a lifesaver that we use pretty much every time. Other stuff that we use a lot of the time are process plugins. So you get skip on value and skip on empty. It's pretty much self-explanatory. So we won't go really over it. But the most interesting one for me is the static map. So you can map incoming data with outbound data. So that pretty much mean that you can map specific values to outbound value. And then if the inbound value is not in the map, you can tell the process plugins either to skip the row or provide the default value. So that's really neat, and you should use that. Then the default value, well, yes, it just does what it says on the box. So another thing that we had to resort to do sometimes is just filtering out data directly in the source plugin by subclassing it and doing custom stuff in it. So that's for when the endpoint you're consuming, well, the guys in charge are not bothered to fix it, or when it's yeah, especially malformed, or I don't know. But it's a nice thing to do, and to know that Migrate Pro provides a way to do that really easily. So the next point you've got to think about when doing an unattended import is the scheduling.
So generally what happens when you're done creating a migration, you think to yourself, there's no time to waste. Let's launch this tonight and we'll just wait to see what happens. So you launch the migration overnight and wait 8 hours. And when it's done, you come back the next morning and you find out that something actually went wrong and the entire migration was skipped. Well, generally what actually happens is that the migration was actually busy. It tells you, oh, Migrate was already busy, so we couldn't launch your migration. Well, this actually happens when your migration was previously launched, it had failed for some reason, and then just got stuck on the migration is busy. So yeah, what you essentially want to do before running any big migration overnight is first to reset your migration status, because if you don't, it might just give you a migration busy error and not launch your migration at all.
So to execute scheduled migrations, you've got a couple of ways to do that. The one solution that we use the most is a simple cron job launched from a regular Linux cron tab. That's usually what gets recommended the most in the Migrate Slack channel. And yeah, it never failed us, and I don't see, yeah, we don't see us moving away from that solution. But then you could also use a module like Migrate Scheduler, or doing or writing an cron yourself to launch it. But then you got other problems to solve, like the memory limits or the max execution time. So yeah, we just go for cron jobs most of the time. Another problem you've got to solve is how to be alerted when something goes wrong, because yeah, it's unintended and you should be alerted. So the classical solution for that is just the client's panic calls when something goes wrong and he sees it. So that the leveled up solution is writing custom sensors for the monitoring module. So for those of you that don't know the monitoring module, it simply provides you with a plugin system. So you write a custom plugins, or yeah, you got one from Contrib, and then it runs the code from the plugin at a scheduled time on cron, and then it alerts you if something goes wrong. So you can check the migration status. You can check the migration messages in there. You can check the state of the databases, if how much entities got imported and all that. So yeah, that's what we do for the time being, but we are still looking for new solution suggestions. So if you use something else for alerting, well, just let us know in the chat. Another thing that you get to plan for is how to troubleshoot the failure that you just got alerted of. Yeah. So you've got a couple of ways to troubleshoot a migration and to keep logs and be able to tell what happened. The first simplest solutions are the cron job output messages and the migrate messages. You don't have the same informations in both of those, so you should check both. Then you could look into the log process plugin. It basically lets you log whatever the process plugin is processing. So that's useful. And yeah, just look into it. And then keeping a copy of the data that got imported when it failed is also pretty interesting. So it's really something that we had to do a lot of the time, like assigning responsibility, telling what happened. Most of the time, it's most of the time the problem is in the content, but you should be able to tell the site owners that the problem was in the content and not in the migration and not in the endpoint source endpoint.
So how about we do a bit of role-playing? Let's just say I'm your client and I would like to receive a report when you launch your migrations. I want it to tell me when things go bad. So you add a custom feature called email report, and here are my specific needs. It has to be a simple emailable report. Every type of error needs to be caught. The error messages need to be explicit because I need to understand them. Also, I want only one email for all your migrations. I don't want my inbox to be loaded with every single migration that may exist. If you run 30 migrations in one day, every single day, I don't want to receive 30 emails every day. I just want one. So this scenario actually happened to me. This is what I had to do. So I came up with this custom implementation where a simple email would be generated every single day when running the migration. So as you can see in the image here, it has a very simple table with the error code that's personal use, a sample message, which is understandable in certain ways, and the number of times that type of error has occurred. So you can see this could be one way to handle error reporting.
So the last point we wanted to go over is how to do partial update, partial import, syncing, and all that. We'll go pretty fast over those because it's pretty well known, but I feel like we couldn't skip it because you've got to be familiar with this stuff if you want to do data syncing, and yeah. So let's go. First, you've got the update drush flag. It pretty much tells the migration to update every record. Then you've got iWater property and track changes. Those are both properties of the source plugin. So the iWater property allows you to specify a field that contains the last modified date on the incoming data. And then it will compare the last import date with that last modified date. And if the content wasn't modified, it won't import it. So it's more involved than that in reality, but that's the gist of it. Then track changes, it's pretty much the same as iWater property, but it allows you to compare hashes of the incoming data with the previously imported data for each row. And if the hash is not the same, it will get updated. And then you've got the sync drush flag. That's relatively new. So it will first roll back every entity that's not in the incoming data anymore, and then update everything. So yeah, that's the main interesting things to know when you want to do conditionally update or do interesting stuff with the import.
Yeah, so here's my particular use case. You see, I manage about 1 million lines of products every single day. I can't afford to waste time deleting every single product and recreating them every single day. That makes no sense. So if some data did not change, why would I bother importing it again? So what I've done to solve this problem is use the track changes feature. I don't want to include data that has already been imported, so I use this. It's quite easy to implement, but the only problem is that I also use the sync flag. The sync flag allows you to delete data that's not present anymore in your source. And the problem is that track changes and sync are not compatible. So I had to actually implement my own version of the sync that would make it compatible with track changes.
So as a conclusion, here are some insights about what we feel Migrate is about and what we feel Migrate is a great fit for. So if you care about having regular entities, so using views, using forms, entities forms, all that, well, Migrate is a great fit. If you want to leverage the Migrate ecosystem, so if you want to ask questions, use contrib modules, use the tooling, all that, well, Migrate is also very nice if you care about that. And then the last point, and well, if you don't care about your data always being in sync, so if you're okay with Migrate running at a point of time and then importing everything, and then having well, pretty much cached data, well, Migrate is also a great fit, and it's a tool that we will keep on using for this use case. And yeah, thanks. That's pretty much the conclusion.
So now we should have a section with questions, but I'm not sure we have enough time to do that. So maybe we can just see if there are any questions.
Q&A. So yeah. If something went wrong, do you roll back the migration or do you use a database backup?
So yeah, regarding that first statement, I say if something goes wrong, you definitely want to have a backup of your database first. If you don't have it, then you try to get your source data to be right and to make your migration work, and that would be the best solution.
Well, for me, I'd say it depends. It depends on the specific website and the use case.
Yeah.
The first question was, do you develop your own process plugins a lot?
Yeah, to answer that is I do, because I like to have a hand on what actually happens in my code, but that's really not what should be done. What you should do most of the time is see if something already exists that would solve your needs, and if it does, then use that. And if it doesn't, you can always create your own process plugins. It's actually really easy.
Another question. So I've defined one-off migration with YAML files. Are recurring migration defined the same way? Well, what we call recurring migrations are simply regular migrations, but run on a scheduled basis. So I'd say yes. Okay. There is no difference.
Maybe for the other questions, we should just skip them, and maybe you can answer them if you come later on. So we'll just go to the end of the presentation.
Yeah.
So join us for contribution opportunities. That's every single day, first in the morning, then in the afternoon, and it alternates that way. We also have one event that we've made on Thursday. So Thursday afternoon, if you want to join us for Migrate-specific contribution opportunities, then please join us. If you want to know more about Migrate, please check out the Slack channel. We're very friendly. We have cookies, so please come and check out what we do. A big shout out to all contributors. Also a big shout out to all of our colleagues. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention.